Hi, stock investors. JJ here. Welcome back. Well, more on this appointee announcement of for VP JD Vance. How will it affect stocks? How will it affect tech stocks in particular? That's the debate. That's the discussion today. So this clip I'm going to react to: GOP victory with JD Vance could shake up big tech, says TD Cowen's Paul Gallant. Let's see what he's got to say. Let's see what the discussion is, and I'll react to it.
Cowen noting today the Veep hopeful has raised concerns about the effect large tech platforms could have on democracy and workers. Going on to say, should Trump be reelected, Vance could have a major impact on tech policies and regulation, especially given his time at Peter Thiel's VC firm in the 2010s. Let's bring in the analyst behind the note, TD Cowen's Paul.
So yes, he was a protege of sorts of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel in the background there. Last time Peter Thiel came out and supported Trump wholeheartedly, gave speeches and so forth. And so is this guy in a similar realm here. He does support Bitcoin as well. It's known about that.
Paul Gallant. Paul, it's great to have you here. So the Biden administration, we've been doing kind of a little bit of going back in the history books. The Biden administration, other than maybe the AT&T deal for time, no, anyway, there was not much that they were trying to stop. Why do we really think that a new administration would be more proactive, more like Lina Khan in trying to block many deals from happening?
Yeah, I think going into yesterday, I'd say before yesterday, we felt pretty good about what a Trump victory would mean for the tech sector, mostly deregulation. But if you listen to what Senator Vance has said over the past couple of years, including where he used to work, which is Silicon Valley, trying to fund companies that challenge the big tech companies, I think if Vance is the biggest voice in Trump's ear on tech policy, that's gonna shift our view a bit toward being more cautious in what Washington means for the biggest tech companies over the next few years.
But only in the area of big tech?
Big tech is the biggest difference, I think. And the reason is, here's how I would explain it. I think a reelected President Trump would want to let the biggest tech companies dominate Gen AI for the next 10 years because Gen AI is helping drive the stock market higher. And I think President Trump views the stock market as his daily report card on how he's doing. I think JD Vance looks at AI as an opportunity to disrupt the biggest tech companies. And so if Vance wins that debate within the White House, that's a very different set of policies the next few years than what I expected.
Okay, that's an interesting point that he's making there. That will he be in the ear of President Trump? Should Trump be elected this time? And that's looking far more likely, we have to admit, after the events of last weekend. And the Biden administration's been pretty harsh on big tech, or supposedly. Not really that much has changed, but we've got Lina Khan in there, who's definitely been one of the toughest kind of regulators in recent years or ever in terms of big tech. And should this change, we've seen a lot of tech leaders, as I said in the last video about this, is the second one today that I've made about this, that Lina Khan's been pretty active. And will the Silicon Valley leaders come out? They have been coming out, from Elon Musk down. He's pretty much big tech these days, but David Sachs is right in there from the All In podcast. Those guys, Chamath has been supporting, and others have come out in support of Trump this time around. Could it be because they see, these big techs being sort of disrupted? Possibly it helps the smaller techs and tax, right? Just in the last few hours, I see the announcement that Trump wants to lower corporate taxes to 15%. It's about 21, I think, at the moment in the US. So, that's another thing that is in support of business in general. And will it hurt big tech? Will it harm big tech? This is the debate at the moment.
Well, in a way, Paul, this doesn't surprise me because first time around, President Trump thrived in unpredictability, right? And in challenging traditional power structures. It's not like he seemed to be a big fan of Mark Zuckerberg or necessarily what Google was doing. So doesn't this provide a potential Trump administration the second time around with optionality on what it's going to do and keep some of these Silicon Valley titans on their toes?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the way I think about Vance as kind of intellectual support for a lot of Trump's instincts toward big tech. And, Vance spoke at a conference a couple of months ago, and he said, look, he's not sure exactly where Trump's going to land on a lot of tech policies, but he did specifically call out Google and Meta as companies that are basically in the way of Trump's agenda. and he seemed to support that. So if Vance is given the tech portfolio within the White House, and he has sort of day-to-day focus on it in a way that a president really cannot, that could be a problem for these guys. And what I mean specifically is if Vance is allowed to basically pick the people who run the FTC and the DOJ antitrust division and the Commerce Department, which all run tech policy, there's actually an analogy to the Clinton days. Back in the Clinton days, Clinton handed off telecom policy to VP Gore. Gore picked the head of the FCC and influenced him in a very anti-incumbent direction. So if that's the analogy that Trump has for Vance and he lets Vance run tech, that's a different outcome than I was expecting a few days ago.
That's an interesting insight going back to Clinton and Al Gore there as VP. I mean, it's known that it's usually thought that the VP doesn't have a lot of power, but in terms of being in the ear of the president, I guess Biden was in the ear of Obama in those years. And now we have possibly J.D. Vance in the ear of Trump, who really doesn't know that much about tech. He hasn't liked big tech. So how this all shakes out is interesting. And, you know, whether it's better than for the big tech than the Biden administration, because with Lena Khan, they have been pretty forthright or trying to, you know, you could say hamper big tech or, you know, challenging, questioning the monopolies status there. And we see Elon Musk lighting up with Trump this time because the Biden administration has been pretty critical or for companies like GM rather than Tesla. And there's been a lot of backwards and forwards and ill will going on there, definitely. So he's aligned with Trump, you could say politically, but, you know, really for probably more for business reasons than even donating to the Trump campaign, it seems. So what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. Do you think that they'll be more favorable than a Democratic administration this time around for big tech, for little tech? We'll have to see.
But I would draw a distinction between, it seems like former President Trump wanted to have more of an impact on how some of these big tech companies operate, the types of decisions they make about what content gets out there, but not so much restrict their M&A. And a lot of these libertarian-leaning voices in Silicon Valley that are backing former President Trump right now would very much like these big tech companies to be able to buy their startups, no?
Yeah, that's the big divide in Silicon Valley. You're right. There's venture capitalists who want to fund companies that exit to the big tech companies, and there are venture capitalists who want to build companies that challenge the big tech companies. And if you look at what J.D. Vance has said, he wants these companies to rise up and challenge big tech, not just get bought by them. And that's really, as you said, fundamentally different from where the other side of Silicon Valley is.
That is a big difference. There haven't been many companies that have risen up since these big techs. They do have dominance, a lot of dominance going on there. So what do you think about this? Do you think that this is a good thing that might change, or what do you think? Do you think it will change, or just pretty much status quo in terms of it? I mean, that could happen too. Now, I'm going to put a link on screen here to subscription. If you want to subscribe to this channel, like and subscribe. Follow along. It's a relatively new channel. Follow along each day, daily news reacting to these kind of reports if you want to do that. And also, I'm going to put a link on screen to what YouTube thinks that you should watch next. The algorithm's usually pretty good at choosing, isn't it? So go and see that now if you want to. Might be one of mine, might not be. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.